Myself, Dan, and as always, Chris, too, back in our mobile studios once again.
That's it. Yeah, today again we're in the vehicles. Um, Hopefully next time again we'll be, in the real studio. But you
Our
gotta do
living
what you
room.
gotta do. Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm trying to get that sun out the way. But yeah, Dan, we got a pretty special episode today. So if you want to explain to everyone what we're talking about.
Yeah, so for episode 4, season 2, we're trying something a little different. I think we mentioned at the end of last week's episode, we're talking our top 5 fantasy matchups. So
Yeah.
it could be across anything: sports, movies, TV shows, comic book characters, anything, video game characters, just the fantasy matchups that you'd love to see, the ones that you might never get to see. Um, yeah, just like there's a lot of obvious ones in sports that come to mind, but I
Oh,
tried. I don't know about you, but I tried to keep mine kind of even between. I didn't want to have to be too sports heavy, um, but
well,
obviously that lends really well to matchups.
yeah, it's pretty easy to go sports heavy, especially with us. With me, especially loving professional wrestling. There's just so many
Yeah,
great matches we didn't get to see, and then breaking it down into a top five, it's kind of like, oh fuck, I can't just keep putting wrestling matches here, right? So,
yeah, we could do a top 50 fantasy wrestling matches, and same with the MMA probably too.
yeah, bunch of matches. So I guess I'll go first because you went first last week. Um,
Okay,
Number five was tough because I thought long and hard. This
so
is a strange. This is a strange matchup. Oh wait, did I cut out?
no, I just laughed because you said long and hard.
See, Dan's still a kid. But I thought I thought long and hard about this one, and I want to put it in. And I'm actually gonna go an anime fantasy matchup as my number
Ooh,
five. Um, I'd like to say I read both these mangas well before they were mainstream. You know what I mean? Popular. I've seen the series, and I'm gonna go with Homura Kenshin versus Guts. So I'm not too familiar if you know any of these characters.
I have no idea.
So I'll give a quick backstory. I'm not going to give like a crazy, um, you know, synopsis on the whole anime because that's going to take a while. But Homura Kenshin or Kenshin Homura in North America, um, he's an assassin wanderer, and back in the war, he was an assassin. And after his wife dies, he decides he's never going to kill again. So he becomes a wanderer. He wanders Japan for decades. He has a katana, but it's a double edged. It's a reverse blade. I don't know if
Oh,
you ever heard about it.
so
So
it's
the
a blade on
blade,
both sides?
no, the cutting edge is actually on the inside because he never wants to
Oh.
kill anyone again.
Ah,
See, I think it's called a sakabato, a reverse edged
so
sword. So that's
he's just whacking motherfuckers with a blunt end.
Well, throughout the anime, he befriends his old enemies. He meets new enemies, but he swears never to kill anyone. But he's a master tactician. He's a master swordsman. He's got superhuman speed, and I would like to see, this kind-hearted, you know, well, he was an assassin, but he becomes a kind-hearted wanderer versus
Right.
Guts. And I don't know if you know Guts, and he's been very
No,
popular in the last recent years, and he's from Berserk. You don't know the anime Berserk at all, or know
no,
anything?
I'm pretty ignorant to a lot of anime.
Yeah, so basically, um, Guts is a mercenary for hire, and he is just a bad motherfucker, yo. He's strong, he's durable, he's ruthless. He's got insane pain tolerance. Um, he is just a menace. I would love to see that fight because you're dealing with someone who doesn't want to kill, but he's gonna have to be forced if he's facing someone that
So
is
ruthless.
relentless and ruthless. You should look him up. It'd be
What?
interesting to look it up. But basically, Guts gets his name from his origins is basically he was they call him Guts because his mother was hung and he was in the womb And then
Oh shit.
yes, and then that's where he was found by I think it's Gambino, a mercenary, and he didn't really want to do anything with Guts, but his wife took care of Guts, but she ended up dying of the plague. So he ended up taking care of him, and he was useless. So he trained him to be a mercenary. I think around when he was 3 to 5 years old.
Right.
So then after that, he ends up getting raped by
Holy shit, this guy can't catch a break.
no, yeah, he ends up getting raped, and then he ends up killing the only father he's known, Gambino. After Gambino goes through a series of trials and tribulations, he loses his leg. So he tries to take it out on Guts. Guts kills him. He ends up being a wanderer, and he meets Griffin, who's the leader of, I think it's the Falcons, and they have a battle, and Guts loses to him. So now he's under Griffin's control, and then the anime goes insanely crazy after that. The crazy thing is,
What kind of
oh, right.
oh sorry, go on. Go on.
The crazy thing about this battle is what's interesting too is, like I said, Kenshin has, the Sakabato, it's a reverse edge. It doesn't have a cutting side because he doesn't want to hurt anyone, but Guts has a 7 foot long sword.
Okay, that's why I was gonna ask. What was he equipped with for the
Yeah.
battle?
He's got a 7 foot sword called the Dragon Slayer. And in battle, I think with Griffin, if I remember, he loses his arm, so his arm's actually like a catapult as well, like it's a machine
Oh
catapult.
shit.
So it would be an insane matchup. I would just like to see how Kenshin, if you watch it, it's like a love romance anime, but how he would deal with someone like Guts on a battlefield, and Guts is going to the end, and Kenshin's gonna have to do something because hitting him with a fucking dull sword isn't gonna work. He's gonna have to turn the blade around and really fight. So I thought that would be an interesting matchup. There is better sword, um, obviously, sword masters in anime, but this was just one of the two first animes I really got into, and I just thought it would be a fun battle, man. So Guts versus Kenshin. I'm gonna actually put a poll after this to see what some fans think who would win.
I want to hear who you think would win. For each of our picks, I want to hear who you think would win.
Um, Kenshin is the better sword handler, but
Right.
I think this is a tough one. You're dealing like Guts. Remember, he was also the leader. He was also the leader of the Falcons when he was under Griffith's command. So he knows, tacticians. I'm gonna have to go with Guts. I think
Yeah.
he's fearless, and
He's
I
ready to
think
go further.
yeah. But you never know. Kenshin has superhuman speed. He's an animal, but it's a tough one. I don't know. I remember Guts also has the crossbow and artillery too. So yeah, I don't know.
Right. Right.
I honestly I
Secure
don't
the
know.
firepower.
I don't know who would win that. It's a tough one. That's why it's a fantasy matchup.
Exactly. Exactly. I gotta check these animes out because, like I said, I'm very ignorant to anime. I really need to catch up on a lot of stuff.
The minute you see Guts and then you see Kenshin, you're like, oh, it looks like Guts would kill this guy. But
Yeah.
Kenshin is a bad motherfucker too, yo. So I have that at number 5. I had other kind of matchups I was thinking of, but I thought it would be cool to throw in an anime one. We really haven't talked too much about anime, so I think that would be an
Yeah, we have.
interesting matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. You're number 5. I wasn't expecting that one.
Yeah. So Dan, what's your number 5?
My number 5, not anime, but the American version. I'm going with comic books
Uh
for my
oh.
number 5.
Uh oh.
And there's a lot of obvious ones that people talk about. Like maybe like Spider-Man, Batman stuff. You've seen a lot of crossover between like Marvel and DC, so I think a lot of these characters have encountered each other over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta go with two that are just my number one favorite Marvel character, my number one favorite DC character, and I'm gonna go with the Ghost Rider versus the Swamp Thing.
Oh, that's an interesting matchup. The Swamp Thing, eh?
Yeah, because both characters, they both are really good characters, but they're both looked at, I think, by most people as like B tier characters. They're not up with your Spider-Mans, your Supermans, your X-Men. But at the same time, they're both well-written characters and extremely powerful too in their own right. Like, obviously, Ghost Rider, I think more people are familiar with because there was like that movie back in the day with Nicolas Cage that wasn't particularly very good. But but yeah, like his power all comes from basically selling his soul to Mephisto, who's basically the devil. He's able to channel like the power of the Hellfire. He can, touch any weapon, any vehicle, and empower that with the Hellfire. He has the Penance Stare, and then Swamp Thing is basically just he's basically Poison Ivy on steroids. He just is basically in control of anything within nature. He's basically his superpower is the whole planet essentially. They're both like extremely powerful characters, and I'd be interested to see how a battle would play out.
Yeah.
Like, and how if it would be one sided or if it'd be a prolonged, very long battle. It'd be hard to finish one of the other off. If I really had to bet, I'd probably go with Swamp Thing to beat Ghost Rider. So I feel like Ghost Rider has a little bit more flaws. There's a lot of times where he can't transform from Johnny Blaze or Danny Ketch, whoever it is, into the Rider. So I think that's his main vulnerability. So I think that's why I'd probably pick Swamp Thing in the matchup. But that's my number 5 matchup. It's obviously not the most obvious comic book one, but I'm just picking it strically out of they're my favorite characters, and I would like to see them.
That's fine. Matchups, fantasy matchups can be anything. So it really,
exactly.
You could have the Ninja Turtles versus the X-Men. Like it really,
which would be pretty sweet, to be honest.
Yeah,
Wolverine versus Raphael. Oh my gosh, I wish I would have thought that earlier.
You could have anything. So, anything else you want to say on that matchup?
No, not really. I mean, comic books really do a good job of answering a lot of these questions when it comes to crossover. I picked that one because I was positive there hasn't been a crossover with those characters. But comic books are a nice venue to give you the opportunity to see a lot of this stuff. Like I think right now there's a Wolverine Predator comic out right now. It's like just anything you can imagine like that they try to do and try to service.
That'd be a cool fight.
Absolutely. Wasn't that on? You remember Superpower Beatdowns we used to watch?
I think that was on Superpower Beat. That's why I was saying. I think that was on there, and I think
because they
can't remember
Wolverine versus Batman on that too.
Yeah, they have a few good ones. I always found when I was growing up, but I didn't really get into comics hardcore. But I always thought a lot of DC characters were very overpowered. But I don't know if that's
definitely
like the ones in the Justice League. They're like heavily overpowered, but
yeah. Well, Marvel's all about humanizing their superheroes to try to make them relatable too, give them lots of flaws and stuff. Make them like real life people.
I remember going to Best Buy. Oh no, it was Future Shop. It was Future Shop when it was Future Shop, and I was looking for a video game, and there was a girl working there, and she was into comics or whatever, and she was like, "Oh, what are you looking for?" I'm like, "I'm just looking for a game," and she was like, "Oh, why don't you get the new Batman Asylum or one of the ones for the 360?" And I was like, Batman sucks. And then she got all angry, and she's like, "What? Yeah, Batman's original." And I'm like, "Yeah, but he still sucks." And she got so mad at me, but like, when I was getting into comics, really, I was a Marvel guy, right? So I like, So you pick and choosy, right?
I'm a Marvel guy myself, but oh man, I love Batman. Batman's so sick.
Yeah,
Batman a lot like a Marvel character in the sense like he's just a regular human being. He's not like the overpowered superhero kind of thing. Just a rich guy with gadgets.
Yeah, pretty much. How come all rich kids end up being superheroes, yo? All right.
Most times just become douchebags with superheroes.
Yeah, I know. Number 4.
Number 4.
This is one at one point in time, I thought this was gonna happen. I remember seeing vignettes, and I remember it was rain coming down, like a wooden style broken down home. You seen the trench coat, the boots, and I was like, "There's no way this is Sting." And I was like, this was probably 2011-ish, 2012, and they kept on having these vignettes, but it was eerily similar to like Sting's vignettes when he was doing The Crow, and it was like, obviously it was different setting, but Sting was like in a warehouse kind of type, and this was kind of in like a wooden shed fucking house,
Man,
whatever you want to call it. So I'm like, is this really gonna happen? Is he really coming? And then it ended up being the Undertaker. And then
yeah,
years later, I think it was 2K15 came out, and they had the Sting promo when they're all playing in the orchestra, that beautiful WCW theme, and then it's Sting's face, and then we didn't hear anything about it for a little while again. And then again, he debuts finally, and then they match him up with Triple H. The man is finally in the business. We've wanted to see this matchup since we were kids, and I'm talking about Sting versus the Undertaker. At the
yes,
in the point in their careers, they had one more match that would have been decent, and that was the time. And right away, me and you both knew it when he was booked to face Triple H. We're like, they're gonna
they're
bury
gonna
him,
do. Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's exactly what happened. They must have talked to Sting over there. We'll put you in the Hall of Fame. They probably gave him a shit ton of money. And he's been on interviews saying he wanted that match and they didn't want it. And for for us growing up, there was nothing cooler in that Attitude Era than the Undertaker, besides Stone Cold, but the Undertaker's character and then Sting.
yeah,
And you had them both. It was the opportunity of a lifetime to put those two WrestleMania. What like just imagine how magical that like that's like a missed opportunity, just like when Hogan and Flair should have fought instead of Hogan and Sid Justice.
yeah. And the worst part about it is, it's like if they wanted to bury Sting and they didn't want him to get a win when he came back, like they could have put him against the Undertaker and he could have lost,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't be as damaging. But they had to do it against Triple H. They had to turn it into this Monday Night Wars theme, that like about this fucking TV rating battle between two wrestling companies that hadn't existed in 20 years. Like, holy fuck, like no one cared anymore about the Monday Night Wars. They want to see Sting versus Taker, like you said.
Yeah, and like he debuted with that garbage theme. It was like you could like I don't know how expensive it is. I don't know, but you own WCW, you own their library.
Yeah.
You couldn't have the
And they
man.
must be able to use that song.
Yeah,
They must be able to use it because they have it in all the games and
yeah.
stuff.
You couldn't like what the fuck? The best part of that match was Scott Hall taking the fucking bump. That was the best. We were dying.
None of that none of that made sense. Like, why would the NWO come to help Sting? That was Sting's greatest rival. The entire, like, I don't even understand.
And then there's
None of it made sense.
WWE does this thing when they bring in somebody, they bury them, and then the next night on Raw they want to give them a world title match. It's
Yeah, yeah,
then Triple H beats them. Then they give him a title match later on versus Seth Rollins. And then the catch is Seth Rollins has to face John Cena as well on the same night. Cena beats him for the US title. And then Sting, obviously Seth injured him, but
yeah,
Sting wasn't booked to win the match. So what was the purpose? Like I don't
yeah.
don't I don't understand. And I'm not saying oh they owed Sting so much, but you owed the fucking fans.
You know the fans,
And the
yeah, not to
fans
ruin shit.
wanted this fucking matchup. That's what we wanted. We didn't get obviously, Stone Cold was very protective of his character. He didn't want to face Hogan, whatever. Hogan's politician as well. We didn't get to see the two hottest stars go at it. But why couldn't we see Taker versus Sting at that stage in their career? You had no problem putting fucking Undertaker and Goldberg in Saudi Arabia.
Oh my god! And at least Sting would have taken care of him a little bit better than Goldberg.
Like that, like we said, those guys at that point in the career had one good match left,
Yeah.
and that should have been the
You
match.
said 2015, 2016
I don't
when he
remember.
came in?
I don't remember when Sting came in, but at that point, Taker was kind of working with Lesnar, and I think he worked with Bray Wyatt. I don't know if it was that Mania that Sting fought, or I don't
Right.
remember. I don't remember, but Taker's matches were pretty much downhill at that point.
Yeah, it's funny. The drop off of Taker was pretty quick there, because the early 2010s he was still having like
Yeah,
borderline classics at WrestleMania, but then a couple years later it was like he could do the cinematic match, he could do stuff like that, but like he was not going to put on a good live performance.
They even did the same thing with AJ Styles. They had him lose to Chris Jericho at Mania and then win the title. Like
Yeah,
I don't understand why you guys do that. Like what?
not protecting the wrestlers, not protecting the belts.
No,
Doesn't
it's
make
like
any sense.
it makes zero sense. But yeah, again, number 4, Sting versus Undertaker, just two so over the top cool characters. Um, man, like imagine seeing that match at like a Halloween Havoc, or like obviously WrestleMania.
Oh,
Obviously, it would be at WrestleMania, but like just imagine
yeah, but like
this.
Halloween Havoc would be pretty badass.
Yeah, but imagine the extent, like, oh man, I don't know. That was a missed opportunity for the fans, definitely. But
I,
I'm not a booker, so I don't know.
yeah, can you imagine seeing one of those guys like if they would have did what if appeared on the other show back in the day? Like you were saying, like I'm just picturing like Halloween Havoc, and then you hear the bell ring. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
Even
that'd be
seeing
unreal.
seeing Kane come out at Halloween Havoc would be insane.
Oh my god, yeah.
But yeah, but
Gee.
what a missed opportunity. But number 4 for me, Sting versus Undertaker. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. I remember just seeing those vignettes, and then I was like, and then when it showed the Undertaker's face, I was like, for fuck's sakes, like that's
Yeah, makes you disappointed to see the Undertaker. The only way you could be disappointed to see the Undertaker.
I know. And I was like, for fuck's sakes. And then when we finally got Sting, it was like, wow, we might actually get this matchup, and no go, yo. So
Yeah, yeah,
missed opportunity, but what can you do? There's a ton of missed opportunities in professional wrestling, but that was one that was right there. They could have done it. Um, I don't even remember at this point what Taker was doing. Like I don't remember. It was that the year the streak broke. Like I don't even remember.
yeah. I don't know. It probably was probably around the time Lesnar going into Lesnar Goldberg stuff.
Yeah, so I don't even remember when or what happened at that WrestleMania with what who Taker was facing, but it should have been Sting, hands
Yeah, that
down.
would have been a classic.
All right,
But
then.
yeah, that's a great pick for number 4.
I don't even know. And like, if I'm booking that to win, I'd probably book if it's at Mania. I'd book Taker to win if his streak wasn't
Yeah,
broken.
yeah.
So
Which they should never broke.
no, not. I understand why they wanted to break it to Lesnar, but like, it should have went to somebody.
Lesnar didn't need it. It
No,
didn't. There's Lesnar was already as over as he could ever be. Like,
yeah. So what can you do, man? That would have been a match, man. That would have been cool. But anyways,
yeah.
Dan, you're number 4.
My number 4. Well, mine's not wrestling, but it's in the I guess in the same kind of category. I'm going to MMA. I think it's MMA is very similar to wrestling in the way that you get fantasy matchups. You know, there's all the fantasy matchups between eras and stuff. It's a one-on-one sport for the most part, so it's it's easy to think of all the different matchups you never got to see.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going with the two guys. Like I don't know. I go back and forth between who's like really on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. But these are two guys that are definitely up there. They're definitely top 5 fighters of all time, in my opinion. Maybe even 1 and 2. Um, Slightly different eras, missed each other's primes. I would love to see this especially under like Pride rules, where there's just more weapons to use and stuff. And my number 4 matchup is Johnny Bones Jones versus Fedor Emelianenko.
Yeah, that's an interesting matchup because
Yeah,
I don't like
it.
Fedor was so tough, man. I like
Yeah,
and it's
and Fedor would rise to the occasion against anybody. Like if he was facing a world class jujitsu grappler, he'd be on the ground punching the guy in the fucking face. If he was
yeah.
facing somebody that's world class stand guy, he could hold his own stand up. Like, and you go back and watch his fights, and holy fuck, how quick he could throw that lead right.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh
He is a better boxer than John Jones, hands down.
yeah,
Kickboxing, like John's probably better with the kicks
yeah.
and the distance control. But yeah, that lunging right by Fedor is deadly. His ability to take pain, his ability to get out of submissions. Like,
Yes,
the
yes.
the only way I see John winning that fight is taking him down and then getting him in a submission somehow.
Yeah,
Or
or grinding out a decision or
yeah.
something.
Or maybe get him in
I,
a
I
crucifix. Like I don't know.
I always thought Fedor was a really bad matchup for him because I always thought that one of John's weaknesses are guys that come right up the pipe at him, just
Yeah.
close distance real quick, go right up the middle, throwing a lot of punches. And Fedor could close distance with powerful punches quickly. Like the most nervous I ever was with John fighting was like when the first round with Lyoto Machida when he was rushing him and he landed a few straights.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other times too, guys rushing them, throwing a lot of straights up the middle, like friggin'. I mean, that's what Gus did that a fair bit, but those later fights too, like Thiago Silva
Yeah.
or Santos,
Yeah.
Thiago Santos.
Santos, Reyes,
Yeah, yeah,
Gustafson. Yeah, a lot of those guys. A lot of guys with range and who have a good jab and overhand right. Yeah, it gives John a lot of problems. But
yeah.
yeah, the one thing I heard a lot of fighters say they don't know if he has a good chin. I think John has a good chin. He's been hit.
He's like it. He's been hit. Yeah,
Yeah. He's been in some wars with some guys that hit hard. So I don't think there's a chin
yeah.
issue. That's a tough matchup, especially it just depends on when John moves to heavyweight. Like if he's this heavyweight John, I don't think he stands a chance. Now
No way.
if he was younger John, maybe
Yeah,
the
yeah,
flashier. It's tough to say. It's I don't know, right? Like remember, John's facing Stipe in about 2 weeks. So
yeah,
what is
yeah. And
what
there's
is
a lot of other matchups I was thinking for that because I was thinking just great heavyweights. I was thinking maybe like Stipe or DC versus Fedor too would be a great matchup.
Yeah, I would put that more in DC's favor. I like DC's wrestling is good, man. So it's all tough. Any matchup with
Yeah,
Fedor is tough. I remember when Dana was so high on Brock versus Fedor. Fedor would have murdered Brock.
Fedor would have fucked Brock up. Yeah,
I don't know why Dana had so much fucking like hard on for Brock, but Brock's wrestling was good, but his striking defense was bad, and his ability to get up and his ground defense was horrible. Once he got on his back, he didn't know what to do.
yeah, yeah. Well, we saw Shane Carwin beat on him for a whole round when he was on his back.
Even with Velasquez, like he's never been knocked out cold, but he
He
doesn't
doesn't
know
take
how
a
to.
body shot well.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to protect himself properly when he
Yeah,
on the striking and like the defense. But who do you think? Who do you
yeah.
think wins that matchup?
Fedor John. I could never bet against John. I mean, I've seen Fedor lose, so I would gotta lean towards John. But it's hard to picture. It's hard to imagine John beating him too at the same time. So it's like
Yeah, it's
I don't
weird.
know. Yeah,
It's weird seeing guys like that are so mystical lose. You know what I mean? It's still like weird when you see like
exactly.
Anderson Silva lose because that's like we were saying. We were talking a little bit when Volk got knocked out last week. It's like it's
Mm,
weird to see these guys that are unstoppable get finished because they get finished in such a bad way. Like
yeah,
when guys like that get knocked out, it's like really bad looking. Like when Anderson got finished, it was bad. When Fedor got finished, it was bad. You know what I mean? Like it's just bad finishes for top guys, right? It's
yeah. Guys that have an aura around them, and then it's like it shatters
yeah.
very drastically all at once.
Like if John ever gets finished, it's probably gonna be one where he just gets hit and he just drops straight down, like knocked
Yeah,
out
it'll be
cold.
bad.
Yeah,
It'll be bad. Yeah,
it'll be a bad finish, but yeah, that's a fucking tough matchup, yo.
yeah, yeah. I like that one, and I just like the idea of having it in like a Pride ring too. John fighting in Pride.
See, in Pride now, I think you have to give the edge to John because he's more I wouldn't say he's a cheater, but
Creative.
he has more of those things where he's gonna knee you in the head and like all the time
Yeah,
he's gonna kick you down opponent now. He can do 12-6 probably there.
yeah. Imagine, remember how vicious like Rampage was with the knees to the ground opponents in Pride? Imagine John
Yeah.
kneeing ground opponents in the head and shit. That'd be wild.
Imagine that and the 12-6. But then you gotta
Yeah,
factor in what was Pride rounds? It was like 10-minute rounds, wasn't it? Some
The
point.
first was the first round's 10 minutes. The second one's 5. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it was like something crazy. So yeah,
Yeah.
does John get Fedor on his back? I think so.
At some point, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like how tired does Fedor get? How tired does John
Does
get?
Fedor try to shoot for takedowns? Probably not, right?
I don't know. Like we haven't really seen John on his back from getting taken down, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's an interesting matchup for sure, man.
Yeah,
I,
definitely.
I like that one. So who you got? You're going with John on that one?
I'm gonna go with John. Yeah, I'm gonna go with John.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so number three.
Number 3.
Number three. This was a tough one because I wanted to put in a boxing matchup, Ali versus Tyson, but we we've talked about this so many times. It's just one of those
Yeah.
weird fantasy matchups. It's really hard to break that down. Then I wanted to put Floyd versus Sugar Ray Robinson. I want like some of these guys, and then I thought I like boxing, but I'm a MMA guy. And
Yeah.
when we were growing up, there was a super fight that they wanted to make, and George St. Pierre wouldn't do it. And I'm talking about Anderson Silva versus GSP. We were at a stage where George had wiped out the welterweight division. Anderson had wiped out the middleweight division. And it was just time. It wasn't an era like now where these guys are moving up in weight. They have no fear. Um,
Yeah.
it
And
took
there's depth.
George
Then
retired, and then it took him like what 6 plus years to come back at middleweight to win the title to retire
yeah.
again, right? But he was a very small middleweight. Like he was trying, and I heard, I think on an interview, like they tried to make the fight work. Like Anderson said, I'll cut down the 170 something. Like Anderson said he would cut down the 178. Like he tried to make the fight so GSP didn't have to go up to 85. And George, after talking obviously with Greg Jackson, all these guys, they said it was a bad idea. Um, got to take time to get up there properly and make sure your body can control the muscle, um, you know, the muscles, the new strain on your body for at a heavier weight. But that was the dream fight. We thought it was going to happen. Anderson versus George St. Pierre, and we never got it. I still don't know who would win that fight because I know Anderson's striking is much better than GSP. It's much cleaner, I would say. Like when I see GSP, I see kind of John Jones. It's kind of like that. It's kind of slowish, sluggish. Like it's not.
the technical.
It doesn't look very powerful. Yeah, it's super technical.
Yeah.
Anderson's more flashy. He hits harder, but when he got taken down by Chael, he kind of got exposed. Like, hey, if a great wrestler can take this guy down for 5 rounds, you can probably hold him down. And GSP was a great MMA wrestler. So I don't know if that.
That's the Chael fight. Don't they say Anderson have like 3 broken ribs going into that though? Don't they?
Yeah, but he still took him down in the second fight.
Because what was it? Was it Dan Henderson that he like fucking swept and choked out or something? Or
Yeah, but you know as well as I, Dan's a good Olympic wrestler, but his MMA wrestling is dog shit.
it's true. Yeah, it's true.
He's never been good off his back or fucking
He's
taking.
got a good. He could take you down, but yeah, I guess he did have a hard time keeping guys down in the UFC.
Yeah, like his defensive wrestling is dog shit too. But that was one of those matchups that we thought we were going to see. And back then in the UFC, if it happened, it would probably been some garbage 3 round fight because it wasn't a title fight.
Yeah.
It
Oh
would
my
have
god, I forgot about
it
that.
would have been some fucking stupid shit. But yeah, my number three is George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva, man. And I honestly don't know who would win. It's kind of like that Fedor or John for me. It's like I like if I'm thinking GSP's moving up, I want to give the edge to Anderson. I think the
Yeah,
striking,
I would in their primes. I'd lean towards
yeah,
Anderson
I would
too.
say the striking, the movement, I think it would do a lot for on GSP. So I would give it to Anderson in their primes. But what a cool matchup that would have been.
Yeah, I mean that is the dream matchup of all dream matchups for MMA. I think. I mean that's the one that comes to most people's minds, and arguably the two greatest of all time. I mean, there's you can make arguments for other guys now like John and stuff, but those guys absolutely. I mean, when we were watching, they were hands down better than everybody else in the sport.
Yeah, like I wanted to put Ali versus Tyson here. I thought about it so long because man, Muhammad Ali is just so special, man. But um, I was I became a bigger MMA fan, and that was a fight I really wanted to see, and it was a fight that again was right there in front of us, and GSP just wouldn't take the fight. So GSP versus Anderson is a fight for me, man. That I would have loved to see in their primes.
Yeah, I love that pick. I love that pick. That was your number three.
That was my number three. So I think yeah, you're on number three as well, right?
Number three. What was my number three again? I sure wrote this down before. I was like doing it off memory. My number three was. Oh yeah, right. My number three. I'm going back to wrestling. You mentioned wrestling earlier. I'm going back to wrestling, and I'm picking one that I know me and you've discussed. I think on this podcast before.
I know what you're gonna say because it was on my list too, yo. But go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Let me think. Let me see if it's the one.
My dream matchup is arguably two of the best chain wrestlers in the modern wrestling history, and it is Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle.
Exactly. I had that on my list as well. But I didn't want to put so much wrestling. So I thought I would love to see Sting and Taker. I actually heard recently on I think it's Kurt Angle, he has his own podcast, but
Yeah,
he asked Brett to do it in the early 2000s, and Brett was like, Kurt, I would do it, but I physically can't do it no more.
yeah.
And
He's just after the stroke.
yeah, Kurt said he asked him a few times, and Brett's like, Kurt, if I could, I would, but I can't. Matt
Kurt Angle probably couldn't understand that because he's probably physically decrepit and all perked out. And he's like, "What do you mean? I can't physically do it. I'm doing it anyways."
yeah. But Matt, like, if see, like, that's what we talked about on the one podcast. If all the stars would align, we would have seen these matches,
Yeah,
right? And unfortunately, injuries happen. I know Brett holds a serious grudge on Goldberg, um,
yeah.
for the injury or whatever. So, um, it's one of those things. But man, what a dream match! Like, just think about the dream match that we just brought up. Say you have Hogan versus Stone Cold. You have Taker versus Sting. You have Kurt Angle versus Bret Hart. You have Shawn Michaels versus Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, I
Right.
thought you were gonna say The Rock,
Yeah, well
but
that,
Eddie
that
Guerrero.
that's
Yeah,
good too. The Rock and Shawn would be good, but you would have to have DX Shawn. I think
yeah,
you'd have to
yeah.
have DX Shawn versus The Rock. Maybe like
Have those personalities clash.
2000 Rock. Yeah, but yeah, either way, The Rock or Eddie. Like those, like
Yeah,
The Rock and Shawn were never close, but Eddie and Shawn was supposed to happen before he passed
God,
away.
that would be an incredible in-ring performance by
Yeah.
those two.
But yeah, tell
I
me a
mean,
little bit more about Brett and Kurt, man.
yeah, because I mean, you couldn't go wrong with putting those two guys in the ring together. Like, you couldn't have a bad match. But I think like the theatrics would be great too. Like, because Kurt could carry a storyline, he could carry promos. Brett wasn't half bad, but like, you could do the Canada versus United
Yeah,
States
that's
kind
what I
of
was
thing
gonna say.
too.
Easy,
Like,
easy storyline. Easy
yeah,
storyline.
yeah,
You could have even started a new Heart Foundation. Maybe you brought in Christian. He wasn't really doing it. You have Brett as the heel at the time. So you have like maybe Captain Charisma. You have Tess there. Maybe Lance
yeah.
Storm. And you do that. And then Kurt has, Shelton
That's good
Benjamin,
tag team. Yeah.
Charlie Haas. Like there's so many possibilities there. Man, what a match. But who goes over?
Ooh.
Like, are you gonna build
Well,
the heel or is the face gonna prevail?
I mean, yeah, I think you got to go babyface Kurt. I mean, it's an American company. The match will probably be in the United States, so I think you got to go with Kurt, babyface Kurt going over.
Yeah, I would say the same, yeah.
Yeah,
What a
waving
match.
the flag after his victory.
What a match that would be. That's one of those
Yeah,
that's one of those programs that ends up being a 60-minute Iron Man match to finish it off. Like it's
yeah,
like one of those programs.
yeah.
No,
Oh,
nothing flashy
yeah,
about those guys, man. Just technical wrestling. The most you might get is Kurt doing a moonsault or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kurt would pull off some cool high spots to switch up the pace a little bit.
Yeah. But it wasn't TNA Kurt when he was doing front flips off the ramp, but it would be.
No, oh my God, teammate Kurt, he's going fucking a million miles an hour. Kurt Angle, man, like the older I get, the more I appreciate it. He just could offer everything you could want out of a wrestler.
Oh yeah, just fantastic, and his charisma on the mic. Oh man,
Yeah,
that I don't know. That's like you could even have Steve Austin versus CM Punk at Punk's prime, right? Like
yeah.
that was supposed to happen too. Like there was a glimpse of hope, and then it just never happened, right? But
You knew that, like they weren't gonna give Punk a main event at WrestleMania. They definitely weren't gonna give him Austin.
no, that would have to be a main event. You couldn't have that go on. Austin was probably like, no, I'm not doing it if it's not main. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I bet Steve
Yeah.
was like, no, there's no way I can do that without a main, you know. All right, buddy. You want me to jump to number 2? Or you got more to say about Kurt versus Brett?
No, I think we're good. I mean, we've talked about these guys both endlessly on a couple different wrestling episodes.
Who has the better
Yeah,
theme
no, I'm
song?
thinking
Quick. Kurt Angle or Bret Hart?
I gotta go with Kurt just because the fan interaction.
I want to sing "Sexy Kurt" because sexy
Yeah.
Kurt. Marty
He was
I love when he's like Marty Jannetty still can't walk. I'm just a sexy Kurt.
Oh, but he can claim murders on the internet.
Yeah. Fuck. Oh. Number 2 for me.
D'Lo Brown versus D'Lo Brown.
Yeah. D'Lo Brown, Mark Henry, and China in a threesome. I want to see it.
Oh God.
No, wow. This one's a classic matchup here. It's been debated for the last decade. Jordan versus LeBron. Um, this is such a difficult thing to to argue here because like it's tough because LeBron has played more games than Jordan. Um, Obviously this era it's more easier to get a foul and stuff. I'm not saying LeBron couldn't play in the 90s. I'm not saying that.
No,
But I
yeah,
think when people argue this, they always bring LeBron to the 90s, but they don't bring Jordan to the
to
2000
modern.
to the
Yeah,
modern game. Like who's stopping Jordan? Like if you're having problems stopping
exactly.
DeMar DeRozan, how the fuck are you going to stop Michael Jordan from getting to that rim, especially with no big men? And you can't touch him, you can't blow on him. Like I don't like it.
So
It's insane. It's insane. Like
in the
it's one
shooting
of those.
too,
It's one of those tough match. I don't even know how to match them up. Do we do them 1-on-1? Do we do hey, you pick your best team, I'll pick my best team. We meet
yeah,
at the court. Like it's one of those. It's so tough, man. And LeBron's not that kind of guy. Like he does do it when he has to, when he's assigned to, but he doesn't like to guard the best player on the opposite team a lot. And
right.
I don't see him guarding Michael. If he picks Miami, they're probably gonna throw weight on him. They're gonna,
Wait on
yeah,
Jordan.
right?
Yeah,
Like
he's gonna take tripping. Yeah,
he doesn't have that Kobe-ish in him to be like, yo, I want Michael. I can stop this guy. You know what I mean? But it's such a tough matchup. Like it's one of those things. Like Michael was great in the 80s, but he wasn't the guy in the 80s. And then
Mhm.
he was the guy in the 90s. Then he retired and then he came back. You know, they lost in the playoffs to Orlando, but then they won 3 more and then he retired again and came back for Washington or whatever. And he was 40 with a bad knee and he still averaged 22.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happens if
If people
Michael
act like he was a bum with the Wizards, he was not a bum. He was on a bad team. He might not have been great for that team's chemistry, but him individually, he was still a borderline all-star player.
yeah. And like it's it's crazy. Like I don't it's so hard to match them both up and because like we're talking it's sadly it's 2 different eras. And I know people go, "Oh, it's just the 90s and 2000s or whatever," but it's such the rules have changed so much. It's gone from, an inside post game to a three-point game. Like back
Yeah.
when Jordan played, your shooting guards were the guys that took three-pointers. Like
Well, And half the 3-pointers the guys take now, you just weren't allowed to take back in the day. You'd be sitting on the bench if you took them. Like,
Yeah.
it bothers me that people look at stats and they're like, "Well, the guys are all just better shooters now." It's like, well, no, they're allowed to take shots. Like, you go back even just to like '08 and you watch Ray Allen,
Yeah.
and he's like wide open at times. Well, what is today wide open for a three, and he doesn't take it because he knows
Yeah.
that was considered a bad shot. Then he'll be riding the bench if he takes it. And
Well,
it's like,
that's it.
if
Like,
these guys had free roam to take all these shots, like Jordan would have absurd shooting numbers too, like a modern great shooter.
and like you're talking about the 3 game, Curry, unbelievable shooter. I've never seen anyone better than him. Well, if you're talking about guys, Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, all these guys that were, the guys that were the 3 guys back in the day, like you said, maybe a game they took 6 threes. You
Exactly,
know what I
not the
mean?
same opportunity.
They didn't take
Yeah, no,
they didn't take 18 3-pointers a game. So
no.
it's such a hard matchup with the rule change. Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know who would win a seven. It's like, what's LeBron's best team? We say the Miami Heat.
Yeah, yeah.
So
What
my
2013 or man, some people might say that one Cavs team, but no, it's the Miami Heat. It's what 2013 Miami Heat or whatever.
Yeah, and then if you're bringing the Bulls to this era, obviously Dennis Rodman's probably gonna foul out if you're picking
Yeah,
that. But like, there's no. But then you still got to deal with
but
Scottie
dude, if you
Pippen.
adjust,
Scottie
if
Pippen's
Rodman
still there.
adjusts the fouls, like Robin and Pippen can literally guard any position in the modern basketball. Like
Yeah, and then you have fucking what's his name? Why am I forgetting it, yo? The European
Tony
guy.
Kukoc. Tony Kukoc.
Yes, who's who's underrated as well. And I like how people like to shit on Pippen, but Pippen was a bad motherfucker too, yo. He took those Bulls
Yeah,
teams when Jordan wasn't there. He took them to the playoffs. So it wasn't like
yeah.
he was some scrub. So I don't.
Scottie Pippen was like in his 40s, and he was still bringing the ball up court as a small forward for the Portland Trailblazers. Like
Yeah.
he's like the OG point forward.
So I don't know. You could go this way, that way. Um, obviously, I'm not gonna lie. I'm biased. I grew up watching Michael Jordan's playground. I grew up looking at this guy as a mystical figure that he never missed a shot. No one ever stopped Michael. Like, that's how we're growing to feel about Michael Jordan, right? Like, he's just this
Yeah,
mystical character that's unstoppable, unbeatable. But then you put him against this undeniable force, the greatest scorer in the game right now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. It's such a tough matchup. 7 game series. You pick the best Bulls team. You pick the best, LeBron team, whatever, what team you want to pick on play as, or you want to pick the Cavs that year with Kyrie, you want to pick Miami, you want to pick the Lakers with AD. I don't know who you want to pick. I don't know. Like, the problem is what era? What era do you play in?
yeah. What rules are we playing under?
Yeah, so
I,
it's
I think if it was a one-on-one, Jordan smokes LeBron because so much of what makes LeBron great is how he's like a coach on the floor,
yeah,
how he
the
interacts, how he makes
fertility.
his
Yeah,
teammates better. So it's like the real questions, like you said, you match up their teams against each other, who wins? Because I think one-on-one, Jordan smokes him personally.
yeah, he's a facilitator, right? He runs the floor.
Yeah,
He's like a Magic Johnson basically, but he can shoot better than Magic. And
and can drive to the net a lot
yeah,
better too.
the thing is, like, can LeBron stop that fadeaway from Michael on one? Like, I like,
No,
I don't know, but that's a tough matchup, man. I honestly I don't know because you could look at it both sides. You'd have to come down to where are we playing and what are the rules.
yeah,
That's it, right? So, number 2, Jordan and LeBron for me, man. We can go all day about Jordan and LeBron. It's one of those matchups that is just legendary. And we were like, Jordan retired in '03 again. So if he would have played one more year, we would have seen old Michael versus young
yeah. For
18-year-old
young
LeBron, right?
LeBron,
So it was a time there. Jordan knows he's a phenomenal player. I've never really heard Jordan shit on him, but I think Jordan just is like, yeah, I'm the best. You know what I mean? I would beat anybody,
yeah,
whatever, whatever. But um, who knows? But that's my number 2, man. Jordan versus LeBron. How long have people been talking about Jordan versus LeBron? And for the next so many
Yeah, they'll be talking
years.
about forever.
It's always gonna go on until that Jordan era finally is deceased, and then it's like
or till
LeBron's the goat.
or till some guy comes around that's clearly better than both of them.
Yeah.
Wembenyama.
Hey, he looked all right, yo.
Dude, his highlights from preseason, I was like, whoa, that's some video game shit right there.
Oh yeah. All right, Dan, give me your number 2.
My number 2, I'm going back to some fictional characters
Look,
for my number
it's
2.
starting to get dark out here now.
Oh, you're the brick.
Oh yeah,
My old stomping ground.
your
I
old,
work there.
your old hangout spot.
Yeah, that's where I met my wife.
Sentimental
My
vibes, eh?
my dream matchup, me versus my wife tonight in the bed. It's a dream matchup because it probably will never happen.
No, the question is who wins.
Depends how you look at victory in this. I win quickly and thoroughly.
Yeah. she gets
All right,
she gets to lay there. She lays there and pulls out the old vibrator from the fucking dresser, yo.
Yeah, she's always the loser when it comes to that matchup.
All right, Mike.
My number 2 is 2 of my favorite fictional characters of all time and 2 of the most iconic fictional characters of all time. I'm going with 2 guys that rely heavily on gadgets for combat, for investigation, for pretty much everything. I'm going Batman versus 007 James Bond.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say fucking Sherlock Holmes versus Inspector Gadget.
Oh, well, I think it's Sherlock versus James Bond. Say James Bond fuck Sherlock Holmes up, yo.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's
But
a good interesting matchup. Tell me how that plays out.
oh, it's hard to say. I mean, and even personality wise, I like how they match up because they're both like Bruce Wayne, James Bond. They're both like these playboys and like they're both like just super slick, like witty dudes. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say who would win because like they're very similar if you think about it. Like
Yeah.
they're equipped the same way. Like who has the better arsenal is hard to even say. Like
That's a good matchup. That's a good
yeah.
You must have thought about that one hard, yo.
Yeah, I literally the more I think about it, the less I have any idea who would win that matchup. I lean a little bit towards Batman just based on just the bat suit giving him the stronger armor. But man, when it comes to gadgets, I mean, James Bond's just as equipped as Batman. James Bond also doesn't mind. Actually, maybe I lean towards James Bond because he's got a license to kill. He doesn't mind putting Batman down permanently.
That's it.
Batman's got to take Bond out and just and do whatever he plans on doing with him, arrest him or whatever. But Bond could just fucking shoot Batman right in the head if he wanted.
That's it. Yeah, that's the same thing with Guts versus Kenshin. Right? Kenshin won't murder anybody anymore, but if you're forced to, then you're forced to, right? So I like that matchup. Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I always like that one. I thought of it because do you remember the show Comic Book Men?
Yeah.
I remember they were just debating on it. Could James Bond take out a superhero? And the one guy's like, no. The other guy's like, that's ridiculous. Like, why not? And the guy's like, he has no superpowers. Like, have you heard of Batman before?
Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, if Batman can hold his own against guys like Superman and stuff like that, why can't James Bond as well, right?
And I'm sure if the battle was happening, James Bond would have some special armored suit or something. Like he would
exactly. He'd be prepared too.
Yeah. That's a good poll. That's another one I'm gonna make a poll for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
We'll see what the fans say, and maybe we'll do an episode when we talk about the fans' opinion on some of our matchups, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to even know who's the better ladies' man of the two.
Oh, that's
who's got a higher body count.
Who drives the nicer vehicles? You know, the souped up Batmobiles, or the classic, Maseratis. You know, all these soup. You know, it's a tough one.
Aesthetically, I got to lean towards Bond aesthetically, but for getting the job done, I don't know Batman. He's even got that shark repellent.
That's a good matchup. So, who are you picking? You
I'm
gonna?
gonna go with Bond. I'm gonna go with Bond just because the killing, just because he's willing to go that one step further.
Yeah, you need that in a battle to the death. You can't.
Yeah, absolutely. He can just proximity mine his ass.
Yeah, there are a lot of cool shit you can do. Maybe he'll put him in
The
big head.
golden gun.
He'll put him in big head mode, yo.
And they'll both get killed by Odd Job.
Oh fuck with that golden gun. Fuck yo.
Yeah.
Fuck, yo. That's a good pick. I like that pick, yo. All right.
Batman wins if they're slappers only.
Oh fuck. All right. You want me to go to number one or you want to wait?
Number one. Let's hear your Uno.
All right, so breakdown number 5 for me. Guts from Berserk versus Homura Kenshin or Kenshin Homura from Haroni Kenshin. Sting versus The Undertaker comes in at number 4. Number 3, GSP versus Anderson the Spider Silva. Number 2, Jordan versus LeBron, the great debate. Um, we'll never know, guys. Play 2K. And number 1, Dan already knows this for me. It is my dream game. I've dreamt about this game so much. And then when I got into high school, I was getting into photography and media arts, and I was making wallpapers of this, and I was just dreaming of the matchups. And this is called a dream for a reason because it doesn't have to make sense. And I understand the characters in one of these games are well overpowered compared to the other combatants, but as a 90s kid growing up, you go to the arcade. These were the two big fucking hitters, and they have never collided. They've collided with other companies, other brands, but they've never faced each other. And I don't know whose fault it is because I can't blame Capcom at this point because Capcom has faced everybody. They've done Tekken, they've done
Yeah.
SNK, they've done Marvel, they've done a who's array of fucking matchups. Neo Geo, they faced fucking everybody.
Yeah, yeah, right.
MK, I know has faced DC. You know, they add in a
Yeah.
bunch of universal characters, stuff like that, as playable
Mhm.
characters. But I'm talking about Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. Um, I don't give a fuck what the storyline is. I don't care how overpowered people are. We have to see the two top arcade games from the 90s collide in a fighting game, and it would be epic. You would have MK controls for the MK characters, the harder combos, and then you could
Oh,
have the classic Street Fighter, easy to do
that would be
combos. Anyone can jump into it. You can do an amazing storyline. I don't know how you want to put it. Earthrealm's protectors, man, maybe they overlooked the other humans. I don't know. You could do anything here. I know you guys are gonna say, "Oh, well, these Mortal Kombat characters are way too strong," and I get it. But this is a dream game, and we need to see both of these guys on the same screen fighting each other. And I'm
absolutely.
not gonna lie, I had it with the Mugen. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
We did play it, but I'm talking about a license, not fucking creating my own of Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. I don't even care who wins. At this point, the fans win because, yeah, you don't even need a story mode. Just fucking put them
No,
in the
no.
game and you could just play. That's all you need.
Yeah.
That's it. No story mode. Just
You do a tournament mode, you get a couple cool cinematics, you wouldn't need a big story.
no.
It
That's
would be
it.
badass enough.
That's all we need for this game, my dream game. So, Dan, at number 1, you already knew it was coming. Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat, guys. I know I find a weird dream game, but I've been a fan of both of these for so long. I've been a fan of so many of the characters. I remember downloading the pictures of the characters and posting them on my wall and stuff as a kid. So I've loved these series since I was little, and I would love to see them compete against each other.
And who do you got winning? You take like 4 guys from Street Fighter, 4 guys from Mortal Kombat. Who wins?
That's tough, yo. I think MK. I think MK does a way better job with the video games now with the story mode and stuff. So I'd have to go with Mortal Kombat, but my heart's always gonna be with Street Fighter.
Street Fighter. Yeah. Yeah. I've always just like been more attached, have more nostalgia around the Street Fighter characters, but yeah, there's no denying that the Mortal Kombat characters are all great too and
Yeah,
all classics in their own right.
absolutely. So Dan, give us a rundown and then your number 1.
All right, a countdown of my number 5. At number 5, I had my favorite Marvel, my favorite DC characters fighting off the Swamp Thing versus the Ghost Rider.
Uh-huh.
At number 4, I had two MMA legends. I had John Bones Jones versus Fedor Emelianenko. At number 3, I had two legends of mat wrestling and pro wrestling, and I've got Bret Hart versus Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Um, at number 2, I've got two of the most iconic fictional characters of all time facing off in the Battle of the Gadgets, Batman versus James Bond.
Absolutely.
And my number 1, I was going back to sports. Chris actually stole mine, so I'm going to pivot slightly so I don't just talk about LeBron, Michael Jordan again, because I was going to have LeBron, Michael Jordan at my number 1,
You can
but
do it as your
I
number
figured,
one, yo.
well, I figured it might come up, so I had this one in my back pocket just in case.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to my all-time favorite sport. I'm going to the gridiron of football, and I'm going to match up the two most iconic quarterback coach dynasties of all time. I'm matching up Tom Brady and Bill Belichick's New England Patriots against Bill Walsh and Joe Montana's San Francisco 49ers in the 1980s.
Ooh.
Um,
So who takes that
yeah,
one? You're gonna piss off a lot of football fans here, so be aware of what you're
I think,
saying.
yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, again, like you're talking different eras too, and even further apart than the LeBron Michael Jordan debate, because I mean the Niners, you're talking the early 80s to the end of the 80s,
Yeah.
and the Patriots talking about like the early 2000s on. Um, I do think the Patriots would probably win because it's basically they run similar offenses, the West Coast offense, but the Patriots one is just a little bit more sophisticated just because it's more modern approach. And the 49ers were kind of the pioneers of that style of offense. But I mean, I can't say that for sure the Patriots would win. I mean, you look at the depth of talent on both teams. Depending on what Patriots team you're talking, they might have Randy Moss. They might not have that great of receivers, even if you're talking one of the earlier Patriots team. 49ers, they have like Joe Montana, Jerry Rice,
Mhm.
Roger Craig, stacked offense. You know what you're going to get out of that team. I think the Patriots probably get the edge on defense a couple of those years, but it'd be hard to say. I mean, again, it's really hard to judge by eras.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would just be so iconic to see, Brady and Montana both take the field at the same time.
Absolutely. So who are you picking though? If
I'm
you
gonna
if
lean
you
towards the
had
pick. I'm gonna lean
if
towards the
you
pick.
had to put the savings down, who are you putting it on?
I put it on the Patriots because I know Bill Belichick's probably got a cameraman in the Niners practice filming all their shit and stuff. They're gonna be more prepared going into it.
But for
And
anyone who watches
again,
this, he's a Detroit Lions fan. So
damn right,
and for
damn
anyone
right.
out there, he's not a bandwagon. He's been a fan for since I've known the motherfucker. So
Goddamn right.
for all you guys out
Do you-
there that are now bandwagon fans, he is not. He's been a fan ever since I've known the man.
Oh gee,
He's been
oh
a fucking
gee.
fan of them from shit teams to I guess they're doing pretty good now. So
Yeah, except for we got blown out this last week, but it's our first loss since week 2. But yeah, last week was a little rough, but so far so good this year. But yeah, like you said, the year that we went winless. We were the first team to ever go a full season without a win. That year, I remember telling people, "I think we're gonna make the playoffs this year."
but anyways, guys, that was our top 5 fantasy matches. We have a bunch of other ones in our back pocket that never came out today.
Yeah,
We were doing top 10, perhaps, but we're gonna wrap this up because I want to go home soon. Um, but for
and
next
it's
week,
dark out.
for next week, we're in that spooky Halloween season. So
Yeah.
Dan and I next week are gonna talk about Halloween then and now. Obviously, I've noticed a ton of difference from when we were kids to now, and I think a lot of people have noticed a ton of difference. So we're gonna talk about some Halloween memories, and just how it's changed over the years as we've grown up. And I think it should be a relatively fun episode, and we should get some good laughs out of it.
I'm gonna wear my costume.
Yeah, where you got
I'm gonna wear
in
my
your costume?
costume for this episode.
All right, guys. Like always, I'm Chris. This is Dan. Please like and share the video and put your top 5 fantasy matchups. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a fantasy. You can't bash it. So, anyways, guys, we'll see you next week for our Halloween special.
Peace out, guys.